Welcome to Fuel the Scene. I'm Jolene, and today we're really excited to have Jesse Miller of Octave Cat with us. Thanks for coming on, Jesse. I know this is your first time playing Charlotte as a band.
Yeah, I've been through Charlotte a bunch of times with Lotus before, so it'll be fun to bring Octave Cat there.
So here's the question that I think a lot of us are really wanting to know. What sparked the whole idea for Octave Cat originally? Did it feel like more of like a side project, or is it something you think might go to the moon like, your whole life or do you guys have any future
Um,
plans or
yeah, when we started it up, it was almost by accident. Like I wasn't really like trying to start a side project, but I just had I like kind of knew Eli a little bit is from playing some shows with Dopapod, but I just had him over to my place and was like showing him some of my synth collection, and we just kind of started recording a couple things and just liked what we had. So yeah, we made a few demos, and then um, realized we wanted to just like maybe make it into some kind of project. So we thought of Charlie for to play drums on for the studio project, and it kind of just it went from there. We that ended up being our first album, and yeah, we didn't play any shows before that. We did that first album. In fact, Charlie didn't even meet Eli until, yeah, I think it was like one of the first studio sessions I was doing with him to record drums. So yeah, it just kind of came together pretty organically. And you know, both Eli and I were have always been pretty busy with Lotus and Dopapod. But when there's been breaks or yeah, have been gotten a few shows in or worked on studio recordings, and now that Dopapod's on taking a break or stopping, and Lotus just had some time off on from our touring schedule. We ended up putting together this run of a bunch of shows. So yeah, this is like kind of the first time in some ways that it feels like like a somewhat like a real band, like we're going out there and playing like on a regular basis for a while.
it's good stuff. I was a minute late because I was listening to your most recent show on Nugs you guys had uploaded, and that Strawberry Fields is just beautiful. It's
Oh, thanks.
such a great jam. So whatever you guys have started doing, it's great. Oh, so the name Octave Cat, is that a nod to the synth, or is it something
Yeah, you can actually, it's right back there is my cat that we don't bring it on the road with us, but we
else?
definitely use it for a lot of recordings, and it definitely was heavily featured on some of the first things we did. So it just kind of inspired the name.
I
And
had,
yeah, for a
I
while we kind of stayed away from the cat
had
imagery, but now we just really lean into it because people just really seem to love cats on things.
I love cats. I love them. And your poster with the three cats is so cool. I love how it looks. I was kind of curious, what is the weirdest sound that you've ever created or patched together?
Usually if you have some kind of more like randomized element is when they start to get weirder. So that, and there's all kinds of different ways to get weird. I always like to get weird. I mean, I don't know if you can see the modular synth back here, but this is
Yeah.
this is what I perform with on stage, and that's like a little bit more tame. But then like for studio stuff, like this is something that I'll use. So you can
Okay. That's
you
very
can
cool.
you can
I was
patch as long as you want and get some super weird sounds.
I was gonna ask if you had any gear that's kind of like like you had gotta have it no matter where you are. Like, is there any piece that you have to have with you at all times?
I mean, I would say this rack is my like main performance rack. So I always travel with that. The other stuff is more studio or for like special occasions. But yeah, I definitely like take the modular, the performance rack everywhere.
I imagine it's hard to drill it down because you really want it all, but you can't Tetris it all.
Yeah, I tend to end up with traveling with a lot of stuff as it is. Yeah, that one covers a lot of ground. So
So there's a lot of people out there that are big Dopapod fans, and there's a lot that are, Lotus fans, and they're starting to find you guys. Is it what can they expect when they come to see you? So if, maybe someone was a Dopapod fan, they've never seen you before. How do you think it's a little different from the other two?
well, I'd say the big difference is there's no guitar. So and we definitely like really lean into the more jazzy side. So yeah, it's like a lot of things that are swinging, a lot of more jazz harmonies than you would hear in probably Lotus or Dopapod. But I think just like yeah, the trio texture lends itself to just a little bit different sound. It's like just since there's no guitar, it's a little bit less of a rock sound. So yeah, we definitely lean into that jazz sound a lot. Definitely do a lot of electronic and synth influence stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely hints of both groups in there, but Octave Cat is definitely pretty easily recognizable as its own sound.
Tony, I don't know if you've played at Visualite before.
I never have.
The stage is more often you see bands, they're not all kind of clustered together, they're more spread out in a line.
Mhm.
And so that I think will be really interesting to see too, to be able to kind of see some of those jazzier elements that you guys have. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be such a great venue for you guys.
Right on.
It's really cool. I want you to finish this sentence. Without bass and modular synths, the world would be blank.
Pretty boring, I think. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to make sound, and I'm not completely tied to bass or modular synth. I always got to think of myself as composer first and instrumentalist second. So I would find ways to make sound, but um, those are those are two ways that yeah, I really enjoy and are between the two are pretty flexible for doing a lot of different things.
And I guess that kind of reminds me, I saw a really interesting band the other week called Dirtwire, and they have some really cool instruments that make some really cool sound.
Yeah, I know Durwire.
Yeah, and I was wondering if there's any newer bands. I know that you have a lot of older influences, but do you have any newer bands that you're listening to or that are influencing you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely listen to a lot of electronic music as well that would just be like producers and not bands. But yeah, I'm definitely into bands as well. Like I mean, I like some King Giz stuff and some of that more like psychedelic sound or like krautrock influence sound, like stuff like the OCs
Yeah.
or even like classic like rock sound like Spoon
Mm.
is a favorite of mine. um but yeah, then like on the producer side, like people like Floating Points and Fortet have always been big for me, and Caribou and the stuff he does. But yeah, definitely like a lot of the groups that use synth and more hardware stuff tends to appeal to me more. Yeah, so like other ones like Bicep or Over Mono are both duos that incorporate a lot of hardware stuff, and those sounds are just always more interesting to me than stuff that sounds like purely computer made.
Is there any like artists that you have like a dream collaboration with?
Um, Yeah, I mean, any of those mentioned would be good. As far as like on the like instrumental side, you know, we like I guess a little bit more representing the jazz side. Like we've always looked up to like what Medeski, Martin, and Wood did as a trio. So like doing something with I did get a chance to play with John a few years back at some shows, but and that was really cool experience. So that would be something I'd be interested in doing again.
Do you guys have any pre-show rituals that you do, or anything like any of the other guys do that is quirky or fun or
Um, Not really. It's this is like I said, kind of the first time we've done a more sustained tour. So um, I guess this is one of the times that we would could develop something, but
develop some?
it's like touring, the schedules get so crazy.
It's crazy and super hectic. Do you do anything to kind of like wind down, like to just catch your breath for a second, or
I guess just once I'm off the road,
oh, just okay,
like I
you
kind of
drink
feel like when you're
especially
on, you
good
just kind of want
that.
to ride that adrenaline. Yeah, I mean, I guess my main thing is like I've got a lot of gear when we play, so just being able to make sure I can check it and hopefully it's all working. I mean, problems always arise, but like you don't want to be thrown off by something not working. You like
Oh,
it's one thing to just like not play well, but it's another thing to just get like really thrown off by something that's like technical, and that just kind of like can throw you into this like loop of uh
I know
not
what you
playing your
mean.
best.
Well, okay, so there are some people that you guys are newer. Are there any songs that you think would be good for someone who's never listened to you before to listen to first?
Yeah, well, I would on the latest album, Sprezzatura, I think there's you can hear definitely like the kind of both sides. Like something like By the Dip is a very straight ahead, like trio sounding jazz influence song. And then something like Vader is all the synths and yeah,
Yeah.
like much more representative of the electronic side. So I think that album does a good job of kind of showing those different sides of the band and how like we're bringing together that live sound with the synth stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely a fan of of albums, and I think they speak as one piece of art. So um, yeah, I always suggest listening to the whole record.
It's just, I love listening to the studio albums too, because before you go into the jam, I think it makes you just appreciate the jams way more when, the improvisations start and you're like, oh, this was like the foundation, and now it's just like, so.
Yeah, I mean, I've like improvisation doesn't, well, I guess it can, but I never think of it as existing in a vacuum. It's
Mhm.
there to support something else or to add to something. So I've never been super interested in those sort of like all star, like nothing written kind of shows where it just seems kind
Mm,
of this like
yeah.
I mean, they can be good, but to me, they're not nearly as interesting as when you have something that's composed combined with improvisation.
I was kind of wondering when you guys are improvising, um, do you ever find like sometimes like the jazz side and the electronic side kind of like one of them starts to like fight the other one more than the other side, and how do you guys kind of work around that?
Like I guess like a lot of the electronic stuff we're pulling from is um, it can definitely work in a jazz context. Like we're playing a lot of even when we're in like more electronic inspired grooves, we're usually doing these kind of pretty swinging beats. So that can you know, you go from the hi hat to the ride and from a synth to whirly all of a sudden, it sounds like you're in something way more jazzy. So, yeah, I think they definitely like they're not in competition with each other. Those like styles talk to each other.
What's the neatest or coolest thing that's ever happened to come out of a jam for you?
I guess usually these things where it's like, something that we didn't plan in advance, but just kind of ends
Happen.
up happening by it's like the whole idea is like listen closely to other people, and sometimes just a mistake can like send somebody into something else. So just kind of like trying to hear what people are doing, like either rhythms, tonalities, all that stuff, um, and how everything fits together. Just yeah, that's kind of the beauty of improvising is you can land on these things, and also just like there's like a type of energy with improvisation that is feels different than something that's composed. You can get these like really kind of like big energetic points that I think are tough to get to when everything is written. So I think that's kind of what I'm looking for um, in group improvisation. It doesn't always work. You have to like the more you play together, the more chances you have of good things happening. But even the best improvisers fall flat sometimes. So, but I think like if the audience is along for the ride, they'll accept the parts that aren't as good in exchange for these parts that you couldn't have reached any other way.
Yeah. And I gotta say, as an audience member, we almost never even know if it doesn't go the way that you guys plan it because we're not in your heads. And I've everything I've heard, I haven't heard anything that's gone awry. So it's all been good so far. So
Well, that's
it keeps
good.
going awry, yeah. Um, all right, well, this has been awesome. Is there anything you'd like to leave anyone in Charlotte with some final words and why they should get their best
Yeah, just
to you guys other than
yeah,
you're
like you
awesome?
said, it's Octave Cat's first time in Charlotte, and we don't get tons of chances to play live. So, it is a Sunday, but we hope people are able to carve out a little time and come out and check out the band. We got a local band, the Wormholes, opening,
Uh,
so it seems like
they're
it'll be
great.
a fun night. So yeah, it's Sunday the 27th at the Visualite.
It's gonna be a burner, I'm telling you. All right, well, it's been a pleasure and thank you for coming on to talk.
All right, thanks a lot.